I grew up in the shadow of Wallace Construction, the company my grandfather built from nothing into a Midwest powerhouse. For as long as I can remember, I wanted nothing more than to be part of its legacy. But no matter how hard I worked, my father Frank always had the same assessment: I would never be man enough to run the family business. Meanwhile, my older brother Jason, despite his constant failures, was the golden child destined for leadership. The worst part was not the criticism, but watching my reckless brother be handed opportunities I had earned through merit alone. After years of this treatment, I finally decided enough was enough. Before I share how I turned my family's rejection into my greatest motivation, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever been underestimated. Wallace Construction was no small operation. My grandfather started it with just a pickup truck and a toolbox 50 years ago, and by the time I was born, it had grown into a regional leader in commercial construction throughout the Midwest. Annual revenue hovered around $50 million, and the Wallace name carried serious weight in the industry. Our client list included some of the biggest developers and corporations in 5 states, many of whom had been doing business with us for decades. My earliest memories involve construction sites. I can still picture myself at 6 years old, wearing an oversized hard hat, holding my father's hand, as we walked through the skeleton of what would become a 12-story office building. While other kids had bedtime stories, I had my dad explaining how foundations were poured and steel beams were set. There was something magical about watching raw materials transform into structures that would stand for generations. By 14, I was spending summers working various jobs around the company. I started in the warehouse organizing inventory, then moved to job sites doing cleanup. Each year, I learned a new aspect of the business. What surprised everyone except me was how quickly I picked things up. Construction concepts just made sense to my brain. I could look at blueprints and immediately understand them. I could spot potential problems in scheduling before they caused delays. It wasn't just work to me, it was a passion. Jason was different. 3 years my senior, he had the kind of natural charisma that made people instantly like him. Tall, athletic, and blessed with our father's strong jawline and confident smile, he looked like the perfect heir to the Wallace throne. He was the star quarterback in high school, dated the prettiest girls, and could charm clients with his easy laugh and firm handshake. What most people outside the family did not see was his irresponsibility. Jason barely graduated college with a business degree from a school that accepted him only because of a generous donation from our father. His academic transcript was a wasteland of C's and D's, with the occasional B in classes where participation and charm could substitute for actual knowledge. Even in his 20s, Jason would show up to work hungover or not at all. He made commitments to clients he could not keep. He forgot important meetings. And somehow, none of this seemed to matter to our father. Frank Wallace was a man of a different era. He built the company through grit handshakes and what he called boots-on-the-ground leadership. He believed in working harder than everyone else and expected the same from his sons. But his definition of work had peculiar contours. Staying late at the office, analyzing data, did not count as real work in his eyes. Taking clients golfing or to steakhouses, where deals were sealed over whiskey and cigars, that was real business. Construction is not for bookworms. He would tell me whenever he found me studying industry trends or running financial projections. It is built on relationships and having the guts to make big moves. I tried to explain that modern construction management required both approaches, but he would wave me off. That is why you will never lead this company, Alan. You are too soft, too cerebral. This business needs someone with Jason's instincts. Despite this constant refrain, I remained determined to prove myself. I earned a degree in construction management, with a minor in business graduating at the top of my class. I got additional certifications in sustainable building practices and project management methodologies. Between semesters, I interned with respected companies outside our family business to gain perspective on how others operated. When I finally returned to Wallace Construction full-time at 24, I brought with me a portfolio of ideas that could modernize our operations and increase profitability. I developed a client management system that tracked every interaction and preference, allowing us to provide more personalized service. I streamlined our bidding process, reducing the time it took to prepare proposals by 40%. I even secured 2 major contracts by researching the clients thoroughly and crafting proposals that addressed their specific needs before they even articulated them. Everyone in the company noticed these contributions. Everyone except my father and brother. At company meetings, other executives would praise my innovations only for Frank to respond with something like, "Yes, Alan is good with his computers and spreadsheets." Now let us talk about real construction issues. I worked 70-hour weeks, learning every aspect of the business, from estimating to site management to regulatory compliance. I networked with industry leaders and brought new connections to the company. I educated myself on every competitor in our region, analyzing their strengths and weaknesses. If merit alone determined leadership, the path to succession would have been clear. But as I would painfully discover, merit was not what mattered in my father's eyes. Everything changed with the Anderson project. It was a $10 million contract for a new corporate headquarters, the kind of high-profile job that could elevate our company's reputation even further. I had spent months researching the client, understanding their corporate culture, and developing a proposal that combined traditional quality construction with innovative green building techniques that would save them money long-term. The night before the final presentation, I stayed at the office until 2 in the morning, perfecting every slide, rehearsing every word. This was my chance to show my father what I could bring to the company. When I arrived the next morning, coffee in hand and presentation ready, my father called me into his office. "Jason will be leading the presentation today," he announced, without preamble. "What but I have been working on this for months." "Jason has not been involved at all," I protested. Frank leaned back in his chair. "This client is old school. They want to see strength and confidence in their contractors. Jason has the presence we need to win this bid. But he does not know the material. He has not been part of the planning. I had my assistant send him your notes and slides last night. He will be fine. You can sit in and answer technical questions if needed." The meeting was a disaster from my perspective, though no one else seemed to notice. Jason stumbled through the presentation, taking credit for my research and ideas, mispronouncing technical terms, and making promises we could not possibly keep. Yet somehow, his confident demeanor and practiced charm won the day. The Anderson executives loved him, and we got the contract. At the celebration party afterward, Frank raised a toast to Jason's brilliant work in securing the contract. The entire time, Jason caught my eye across the room smirking as he basked in praise he had not earned. Later that evening, after several drinks, I approached my father to discuss what had happened. "Dad, I need to talk to you about the Anderson presentation." "What about it?" "We got the contract. That is all that matters. But it was my work, my research, my proposal. Jason just showed up and took credit." Frank's expression hardened. "Listen to me, Alan. This business needs a real man at the helm, not someone who hides behind spreadsheets and computers. Clients want to deal with someone like Jason, someone they can relate to. You think your fancy degree and your numbers make you qualified to lead? Leadership is about presence, about commanding respect when you walk into a room." As if on cue, Jason sauntered over, clapping a heavy hand on my shoulder. "Maybe try growing a pair, little brother. Business is not built on PowerPoint slides." They both laughed as I stood there humiliated and angry. That night marked the beginning of a systematic campaign to push me further from the center of the company. My ideas were consistently dismissed in meetings regardless of their merit. I was removed from client-facing roles despite receiving positive feedback from those same clients. Meanwhile, Jason was given increasing authority and visibility despite a growing list of costly mistakes. The office began buzzing with rumors about succession plans. Several longtime employees approached me privately, expressing confusion about why I was being sidelined. Some advised me to be more aggressive to man up in ways my father would respect. Others suggested I find opportunities elsewhere, recognizing the futility of my situation. The constant undermining took a personal toll. I developed anxiety and insomnia, lying awake at night, replaying humiliating moments, or rehearsing confrontations that never materialized. My relationship with my girlfriend Sarah became strained as I brought my frustration and bitterness home each night. She tried to be supportive, but how could she understand the unique pain of being deemed unworthy by your own father, watching your birthright handed to someone who had not earned it? Maybe you should consider working somewhere else, she suggested one night after I spent an hour ranting about the latest indignity. Somewhere, your talents would be appreciated. Wallace Construction is my legacy too, I insisted. I am not going to be pushed out of what should partially be mine someday. The situation reached its breaking point with the Taylor project. It was a complex renovation of a historic building with strict guidelines and tight margins. Jason had prepared the estimate and won the bid, but I discovered his calculations were catastrophically off. He had underestimated labor costs by nearly 30% and completely missed several structural issues that would require expensive solutions. The project would cost us at least $2 million more than his estimate, possibly turning a profitable job into a significant loss. I compiled the evidence and brought it directly to my father, hoping he would finally see the difference in our capabilities. Instead, his face turned red with anger as I explained the situation. So you are trying to undermine your brother again, coming in here with your nitpicking and second-guessing, he demanded. Dad, these are not minor issues. This could sink the entire project. We need to renegotiate with the client or find a way to reduce costs elsewhere and make Jason look incompetent in the process. Is that your goal here? To humiliate your brother so you can step in and play hero? No matter what evidence I presented, he refused to acknowledge the magnitude of the error or Jason's responsibility for it. Instead, at the next company meeting, he publicly criticized my negative attitude and unwillingness to be a team player, implying that I was trying to sabotage projects out of jealousy. The final straw came a week later. I was working late, finishing reports in the conference room, adjacent to my father's office. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear him speaking with Lawrence Turner, one of our board members, and my father's oldest friend. Frank, you need to think about the future, Lawrence was saying. Alan has a good head for the business side of things. Maybe a shared leadership model would work. No, my father replied firmly. Alan lacks the backbone to lead this company. He is too soft, too cautious. This business was built on bold moves and strong leadership. Jason has that quality. He makes mistakes, sure, but he has the right instincts. Alan would turn Wallace Construction into some kind of technology company if he could, with everyone sitting behind computers instead of getting their hands dirty. The conversation continued, but I had heard enough. That weekend, while searching for some documents in the company files, I discovered the succession plan my father had drafted. It named Jason as the next CEO with me, relegated to a minor role overseeing administrative functions. That same night at a family dinner, Jason had too much to drink and cornered me in the kitchen. His words slurred slightly as he leaned in close. You know you are never going to run the company right. Dad has always known you are not cut out for it. I have always seen you as competition to eliminate, but turns out I did not even need to try. You eliminated yourself by being such a wimp. Later, helping my mother clean up, I asked her directly if she thought I was being treated fairly. She sighed, placing a gentle hand on my arm. Your father sees a lot of himself in Jason, the good and the bad. He does not understand your way of thinking, so he does not value it. I have tried to change his mind, but Frank has always been stubborn. I am sorry, Alan. You deserve better. That night, lying awake and staring at the ceiling, I made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, I wrote my resignation letter. It was brief and professional, giving 2 weeks' notice and thanking the company for the opportunities I had been given. I scheduled a meeting with my father and handed him the letter personally. "What is this?" he asked, though the heading made it obvious. "My resignation. I will help transition my projects over the next 2 weeks." He read it quickly, then tossed it onto his desk with a dismissive flick. "So you are running away because things got tough, because you did not get your way. I am leaving because I am not valued here. My contributions are ignored, my skills dismissed. There is no future for me at Wallace Construction. And where will you go? Another construction company. Who would hire the guy who could not cut it in his own family business? I am starting my own company." That made him laugh, a harsh sound, with no humor in it. Construction takes capital, connections, reputation. You think you can compete with us? You will come crawling back within 6 months. As I packed up my desk later that day, Jason leaned against the doorframe of my office, watching with amusement. "Good luck out there, little brother. Try not to embarrass the Wallace name too much with your inevitable failure." I did not give him the satisfaction of a response. I simply took my box of belongings and walked out of the building that had been my second home for my entire life. Starting from scratch was terrifying. I used my savings to rent a small office space in a building that had seen better days. The furniture was second-hand, the equipment basic. The Wallace name opened some doors but closed others. Some contacts were willing to hear me out, interested in my new venture. Others would not risk angering my father by associating with me. I named my company Wallace Innovation Construction, a name that both honored my heritage and signaled my forward-thinking approach. My business plan focused on sustainable, tech-forward commercial projects, an emerging niche that traditional firms like my father's were slow to embrace. The early months were brutal. Potential clients would meet with me, seem impressed with my ideas, then disappear when it came time to sign contracts. I later learned my father had been calling people, warning them against working with an inexperienced upstart who could not handle the family business. 5 months in, with funds dwindling and no major projects secured, I seriously considered giving up. One night, sitting alone in my sparse office, surrounded by unused blueprints and unanswered proposals, I nearly called my father to ask for my old job back. The only thing that stopped me was knowing I could never respect myself again if I did. Sarah remained my rock during this period. While we had nearly broken up during my final months at Wallace Construction, our relationship had actually strengthened since I started my own company. She believed in my vision when no one else did. "Your father and brother underestimated you because they were threatened by you," she told me, during one particularly low moment. "You see the future of construction. They are stuck in the past. Someone will recognize that value eventually." That someone turned out to be Harriet Johnson, a developer known for taking chances on innovative approaches. She had a small but challenging renovation project and decided to give my fledgling company a shot after meeting me at an industry networking event. The Johnson project became my proof of concept. I threw everything into making it perfect, personally, overseeing every detail. We finished on time and under budget, using sustainable materials and energy-efficient designs that would save the client money for years to come. Harriet was so impressed that she referred me to 2 of her colleagues. With a small portfolio of successful projects under my belt, I could finally begin building a real team. My first key hire was Linda Ramirez, a brilliant young architect whose modern designs had been rejected by my father's company as too experimental. Linda shared my vision for buildings that were both beautiful and efficient, using cutting-edge materials and techniques. Next came Tony Washington, an experienced project manager who had been undervalued at his previous company because he lacked the traditional construction background they preferred. What Tony did have was exceptional organizational skills and an ability to keep complex projects moving forward seamlessly. The final piece of my core team was Diego Fernandez, a finance expert who helped secure the funding we needed to take on larger projects. Diego had connections with investors interested in green building initiatives, opening doors to capital that would have been otherwise inaccessible to a new company. Together, we developed an approach to construction that was revolutionary for our region. We implemented building information modeling technology that allowed clients to virtually walk through their buildings before a single brick was laid. We created a transparent project management system where clients could log in and see real-time updates on their projects, including photos, schedule adjustments, and budget tracking. We specialized in eco-friendly building methods that not only appealed to environmentally conscious clients, but also saved them significant money on energy costs. Our buildings used 30 to 40% less energy than comparable structures built by traditional methods. Word began to spread about Wallace Innovation Construction. A local business journal ran a feature on us titled Construction Reimagined, highlighting our technology-driven approach. Industry blogs picked up the story, and suddenly we were being mentioned in conversations about the future of construction. A year and a half after striking out on my own, we bid on the Riverside development, a mixed-use project valued at $15 million. It was the first time we would be directly competing against my father's company for a major contract. When the developer announced that both Wallace Construction and Wallace Innovation Construction were finalists for the project industry, insiders were fascinated by the family drama playing out in the business arena. Our presentation focused on how our innovative approach would save the client money while creating a more sustainable, user-friendly development. My father's company pitched their experience and track record. In the end, the client chose us, citing our forward-thinking approach and impressive use of technology as deciding factors. The day after the announcement, my father called me for the first time since I had left the company. "You think you have won something here," he growled. "You have just taken food off the table of people who have worked for this family for decades. Is that something to be proud of?" "I won the contract because we offered a better approach," I replied calmly. "This is business, Dad. You taught me that." "This is betrayal," he shot back before hanging up. Despite his anger, the Riverside project put us on the map. We expanded our team, moved to larger headquarters, and began attracting clients who specifically wanted our innovative approach. Meanwhile, industry rumors suggested Wallace Construction was struggling to adapt to changing market demands, losing bids to more progressive competitors. The Green City project was the opportunity that would define the future of both companies. At $25 million, it was the largest sustainable commercial development ever proposed in our region. The City Council had made environmental impact and energy efficiency key selection criteria, alongside cost and experience. Both Wallace Construction and Wallace Innovation Construction made the final three, along with a national firm. The presentation would be public, with City Council members asking questions before making their decision. I spent weeks preparing, knowing this would be the most important pitch of my career. My team developed detailed plans showing how our approach would reduce the development's carbon footprint by 60% compared to traditional methods, while still meeting budget constraints. On presentation day, I arrived early to set up. Through the growing crowd, I spotted my father and Jason taking seats near the front. Frank looked older than I remembered, the lines in his face deeper, his shoulders slightly stooped. Jason, by contrast, appeared disheveled, his tie askew and eyes bloodshot. When it was our turn to present, I stepped to the podium with confidence born from knowing our proposal was superior. I outlined our vision for a development that would serve as a model of sustainability for the entire Midwest, combining cutting-edge technology with practical construction expertise. During the question period, council members peppered me with technical inquiries about energy systems, material sourcing, and cost projections. I answered each one thoroughly, drawing on both my education and the practical experience of the past 2 years. Wallace Construction presented next. Jason took the lead, attempting to dismiss environmental concerns as costly distractions and emphasizing their decades of experience. When questioned about specific sustainability measures, he fumbled for answers, growing defensive and eventually suggesting that council members did not understand real construction. 2 weeks later, the council announced their decision. Wallace Innovation Construction would lead the Green City project. The announcement cited our comprehensive understanding of sustainable building practices and impressive track record of innovation as deciding factors. The victory was sweeter than I had imagined. Industry publications covered the story extensively, with several running profiles of me as a construction industry disruptor and next-generation builder. Clients who had been hesitant to work with a newer company now reached out eagerly. We had to expand again, hiring additional staff and moving to a larger headquarters. Meanwhile, Wallace Construction faced mounting challenges. Having lost several major bids to more innovative competitors, their financial position was weakening. Industry gossip suggested they were struggling to pay vendors on time, and several key employees had left for other opportunities. Some of them applied to join my company. I had not spoken to my father or brother since the Green City announcement. I heard updates through mutual acquaintances and industry connections. Jason had apparently developed a more serious drinking problem, showing up intoxicated to client meetings. My father was working longer hours, trying to hold things together as clients began to look elsewhere. 6 months after the Green City decision, my assistant informed me that Frank Wallace was in our reception area asking to speak with me. Surprised, I agreed to see him. My father looked even older than he had at the presentation, his face haggard, his once imposing frame diminished. He stood awkwardly in my office, taking in the modern space with its technology displays and sustainability awards. "Nice place," he said finally, his tone unreadable. "Thank you. What brings you here, Dad?" He sighed heavily, lowering himself into a chair. "Wallace Construction is in trouble. We have lost too many bids, and our costs are too high compared to firms like yours. Jason has become unreliable. He is in treatment now for his drinking." I waited, sensing there was more. "I was wrong about you, Alan. I was wrong about a lot of things." The admission seemed physically painful for him. I could not see that the industry was changing because I did not want to see it. "I valued the wrong things in leadership. Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, though I suspected the answer. "The bank is threatening to call our loans. We might not make payroll next month. Your grandfather's legacy, everything he built, everything I built, it could all disappear." The request hung unspoken between us. I could have enjoyed the moment, savored his humiliation after years of dismissing me. Part of me wanted to, but another part, perhaps the better part, recognized the opportunity for something more meaningful than revenge. "I am not interested in taking over Wallace Construction," I said finally. "But I would consider a partnership, a merger of the companies under the Wallace Innovation name, combining your experience with our approach." Relief flickered across his face, quickly replaced by wariness. What would that look like? What would my role be? "Advisory. You know the traditional side of the business better than anyone. We would keep the Wallace Construction staff who want to stay and adapt to our methods, but I would lead the combined company. And Jason, when he completes his treatment, we can find a role that suits his actual strengths, not the role you tried to force him into. He has always been good with people when he is not drinking. Maybe there is a place for that." My father nodded slowly, considering the proposal. "Your grandfather would be proud of what you have built here. I should have been too." The merger took 6 months to complete. There were difficult conversations, compromises, and cultural adjustments. Not everyone from the old company stayed, but many embraced the new direction. My father struggled at times with his diminished role, but ultimately found satisfaction in mentoring younger staff on the fundamentals of construction that remained relevant. Jason completed his treatment program and, somewhat to my surprise, thrived in a client relations role where he had clear structures and accountability. Without the pressure of trying to run the entire company, his natural charisma became an asset rather than a cover for inadequacy. The combined company grew faster than either could have separately. We secured projects that would have been beyond the reach of Wallace Innovation alone, while bringing modern approaches to clients who might have remained with traditional builders. Looking back now, I realize that success is measured in more ways than just profits and projects. The real victory was not crushing my father's company, but transforming it, creating something better than either of us could have built alone. I found strength not in proving my father wrong, but in proving myself right, staying true to my vision even when no one else believed in it. I no longer need my father's approval to validate my worth. I know who I am and what I can accomplish. And in the end, I earned his respect, not by conforming to his outdated idea of manhood, but by being exactly the kind of leader I always knew I could be. Have you ever had to forge your own path when others underestimated you? Did proving yourself change how they saw you? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Remember, sometimes the best response to being underestimated is not resentment, but reinvention. Thank you for listening, and never let anyone else define what you are capable of achieving.